1 Samuel 23 through 26. I'm going to recap, though, while you guys are turning there. Recap the last week. I covered 4 chapters as well, 19 through 22. But here's a recap. We saw Saul become jealous of David, so much so that David had to flee for his life. McCall, however you say her name, David's wife, lied for him to help him escape. Then Jonathan interceded for David and speaks to his father, who is Saul, the king, to see if Saul truly wants to kill David. It is revealed that Saul does, in fact, want David dead and wants to kill him. So they strike up this code, and they tell each other the code, and the code is, David, you need to run because Saul wants to kill you. So David goes to this priest town called Nob. He lies, though, at this town as to why he is there. And this guy named Doeg, not a cool dude, is there. He sees David get help from the priest. David then leaves from there and goes to Goliath's hometown of Gath. They recognize him very quickly, and so he has to leave and move on, and he goes and hides in a cave. He is in that cave. And that is where we will pick up the story tonight. But meanwhile, while David is in the cave, Saul goes to Nob looking for David. Doeg comes forward and says that the priest helped David. Saul gets angry, and so he orders all 85 priests that live there and their families to die, to be executed unjustly. They did nothing wrong. Saul's men refused to do it, so Doeg, again, not a cool guy, he's like, cool, I'll do it. And so he murders 85 innocent men and their entire families. Awful. But one priest, Abiathar, I believe is how you say his name, was able to escape, goes and finds David, informs him of what happened. David is crushed, and hopefully he learned a very tragic lesson. So tonight, I pulled out 3 key takeaways that I'll plan in your mind now, and then we will get back to that at the end. But one takeaway from this evening is that we need to be seeking the Lord for guidance and not acting on impulse or emotion. 2 is that we need to trust God and His timing. And 3, we can learn that there can be forgiveness and also healthy separation between the 2 parties even after forgiveness has taken place. So we will see that and learn about that. But let's pick up in chapter 23 of 1 Samuel. Hopefully I've given you enough time to find it in your Bibles. All right, David saves Kila. So this is David's men, informed David, saying, behold, the Philistines are fighting against Keilah and are plundering the threshing floors. Really quick, the threshing floors, essentially what is happening is the Philistines are coming in. The people of Keilah have gone through the whole process of farming and bringing up a crop, and they are at the very end where they are in the barns and they're separating the good stuff from the bad stuff. And this is optimal time to plunder, and this is terrible time to get plundered, right? You're at the end, you've spent all this time, and they're about to get plundered. They're about to come and get their crops robbed. And so David hears about this. And so, verse 2, David inquires of the Lord, saying, shall I go and attack the Philistines? And the Lord said to David, go, attack the Philistines and save Keilah. But David's men said, behold, we are fearful here in Judah. How much more then if we go to Keilah against the ranks of the Philistines? Essentially, they're saying, hey, you're going to make us very vulnerable. Like, we are in hiding and we're already afraid now. You want us to go out and expose ourselves? You think that's a wise move? And so, verse 4, so David inquired of the Lord once more. And the Lord answered him and said, arise, go down to Keilah, for I am going to hand the Philistines over to you. Then David and his men went to Keilah and fought the Philistines, and he drove away their livestock and struck them with a great slaughter. So David saved the inhabitants of Keilah. I think it's worth noting here, this is pretty cool, that David did the right thing by inquiring of the Lord. Again, we need to be seeking the Lord instead of acting on impulse or emotion. But he sought the Lord before moving ahead, and the Lord answered him. that is what we should be doing before we make any major decision, or really any decision at all, is inquiring of the Lord. However, David's men, did you notice that they pushed back and went against what the Lord told David? And rightly so. They were hiding, and they were going to be exposed, and in fact, it does expose them and their whereabouts. And so what does David do? Notice he doesn't say to them, well, I heard from the Lord and you're wrong, so just be quiet and leave me alone. No, what does he do? He goes and inquires with the Lord again. He's like, let me just make sure. I heard from the Lord, but let me make sure again. Not, again, just rushing in, but checking. This is a pretty cool move. This is a good practice. Inquire with the Lord, and then if you seek counsel and your counsel says, I don't know, don't just be like, well, I heard from God. Just take that and say, well, let me go check with God again, and you listen to that wise counsel, but also listen to God. And God here twice tells him to go. Verse 6, now it came about that Abiathar, the son of Ahimelech, fled to David in Keilah. I love all of these Old Testament names and words. It's great. That he came down with an ephod in his hand. Again, that is like the priestly garments. It also includes these two things in them that we don't know much about, I guess, but they're called an Urim and Thummim or something like that. It sounds like Uma Thurman, which is the actress from Fight Club, not to be confused with her. But they're like these stones that essentially tell the will of God. How they do that, I have no idea. I was listening to one guy explain this, and he's like, it's actually probably a good thing that we have no idea, because we would try to resurrect this and do this. It's like, well, let me go get some magical dice and see what God says. Like, we don't know. It worked for them. Casting lots, I think this is very similar to where you see in the Bible it says they cast lots. We don't do that anymore, nor should we. But he brought that down, and this was ordained by God. Like, this was a thing that they were to do. This wasn't like any divination or anything weird. This was a good practice. But verse 7, when it was reported to Saul that David had come to Keilah, Saul said, God has handed me over to him. He still thinks God is on his side. This is crazy. For he shut himself in by entering a city with double gates and bars. So Keilah is essentially a very well-fortified city, and David is in there, and he's like, Saul thinks to himself, I'm going to trap David. So Saul summoned all the people for war. He's going to war against one guy. I mean, David has 600 men, but mainly to take out one guy. To go down to Keilah to besiege David and his men. To besiege means to surround the city and make sure that no one leaves. Hopefully, the goal would be maybe they would surrender David and hand him over, and then they would be free, or they'll just keep them in there, and if they come out and attack, they're going to get killed, or they'll stay in there so long that they starve to death and die. This is a very common practice back then. I think they did it in Jerusalem in 70 AD, if I could be wrong. I could be wrong about that, but very common practice, and that was the plan. But verse 9, David knew that Saul was plotting evil against him, so he said to Abiathar the priest, bring the ephod here. Let's roll some dice and see what God says. Then David said, Lord God of Israel, your servant has heard for certain that Saul is seeking to come to Keilah to destroy the city on my account. Will the citizens of Keilah hand me over to him? Will Saul come down just as your servant has heard? The Lord God of Israel, please tell your servant. And the Lord said, he will come down. Then David said, will the citizens of Keilah hand me over and my men over to Saul? And the Lord said, they will hand you over. 4 times in just these 12 verses, God has audibly apparently spoken to David. This is pretty cool. But this is major confirmation that God is on David's side and not on Saul's side, even though Saul apparently thinks he is. God is on Saul's side. He's not. He's on David's side. Team David. Then David and his men, about 600, rose up and departed from Keilah, and they went wherever they could go. When it was reported to Saul that David had escaped from Keilah, he gave up the pursuit. He's like, I missed it. Let's go back. David stayed in the wilderness, in the strongholds, and remained in the hill country, in the wilderness of Ziph. Remember that name. It's going to come up a few times. And Saul searched for him every day, but God did not hand him over, right? Whose side is God on? David's. Now, we were just introduced to this town called Ziph. The people that live there, get this, their name are the Ziphites. They had very creative naming techniques back then. But the people from the town of Ziph are from the tribe of Judah, which is the same tribe that David is from. These are essentially David's people and David's family. We're going to see that they betray him. So Saul pursues David, 15. Verse 15. Now David saw that Saul had come out to seek his life while David was in the wilderness of Ziph at Horish. And Jonathan, Saul's son, set out and went to David at Horish and encouraged him in God. He said to him, "Do not be afraid, because the hand of Saul, my father, will not find you. 1, and you will be king over Israel. 2, and I will be second in command to you. 3, and Saul my father knows that very well." So he just said 3 things, 2 of which come true, 1 does not. Saul will not find David. David will be king. Unfortunately, Jonathan dies before he can be second in command. That would have been a very cool way to end the story, but God had other plans, and spoiler alert, Jonathan dies at the end of this book, at the end of 1 Samuel. Stay tuned. That will happen next week. Verse 18. So the 2 of them made a covenant before the Lord, and David stayed at Horish, and Jonathan went to his own house again. So I said last week that that time when they embraced each other after their weird, unnecessary code, that was the last time. They see each other, I think, this time for a moment, and this is their last time. I could be wrong, but yeah. I don't. Anyway, they don't have that sweet fellowship that they would love to have, because they are kindred spirits and they really are like-minded, but they do not. They are separated because of Saul and Saul's sin. Verse 19, the Ziphites came up to Saul at Gibeah, there you go, Gibeah, saying, David is not keeping himself hidden, not keeping himself hidden within the strongholds at Horesh on the hill of Hachela, not to be confused with spatula, Hachela, which is south of Jessamon. Again, these names, I love them. Now then, O king, come down, since you fully desire to do so, and our part, what we, the Ziphites, are going to do, will be to hand him over to the king. Saul said, may you be blessed of the Lord. He's, again, thinking God is with him. Ironically, he's not, but he thinks he is. Since you have had compassion on me. Saul thinks he's the one being persecuted, even though he's persecuting. Go now, be more persistent, and investigate and see his place where he is hiding and who has seen him there. For I am told that he is very cunning. This is David that is very cunning. So look and learn about all the hiding places where he keeps himself hidden, and return to me with certainty, and I will go with you. And if he is in the land, I will search him out among all the thousands of Judah. So the Ziphites, again, David's own tribe, betray him and choose to align themselves with Saul instead, most likely to earn favor with the king. I will say, maybe they aren't fully aware of all the circumstances and what's happening, and they maybe just think that David has rebelled against Saul, and so they think that he's an enemy to the king, and they think they're doing a good thing, when actually they're tattling and giving over and betraying an innocent man who is anointed by God and chosen by God. But they don't know that, I think. I don't think that they mean ill here. 24. So they set out and went to Ziph ahead of Saul. Now David and his men were in the wilderness of Maon, in the Arabah, to the south of Jessamon. When Saul and his men went to seek him, they informed David. So David's men informed David that he came down, or that Saul was coming. And it said that he came down to the rock and stayed in the wilderness of Maon. And when Saul heard about it, he pursued David in the wilderness of Maon. Saul went on one side of the mountain, and David and his men were on the other side. So there's this mountain, David's on one side, Saul's on one side, and we see in a moment they're about to play a big old game of Ring Around the Rosie, it seems. David was hurrying to get away from Saul, while Saul and his men were surrounding David to apprehend him. And it seems like they're just running around. Now, some people think that maybe they were closing in and going both ways. In my house, we have like a circle that you can run, and I chase my kids playfully to catch them, and they'll run, and then sometimes they'll turn around, and it's like, man, if I could just be 2 people and just cut them off. Maybe that's what they were doing, but they were chasing. But check this out. It says in 27, but a messenger came to Saul and said, hurry and come, for the Philistines have launched an attack against the land. So Saul returned from pursuing David and went to confront the Philistines. Therefore, they called the place the Rock of Division. And David went up there and stayed in the stronghold of En-gedi. If you're ever making a sci-fi novel like Star Wars or something, they got all the great names right in here. All you could want. Anyway, so they play a big game of Ring Around the Rosie. David's able to escape. No doubt God had orchestrated this attack from the Philistines. And so God can even use these instances to bring about good. And so just a reminder, God can use all things for his good. Even an attack from an enemy can be used. And so we don't necessarily always see it in the moment, but when we look back, we can see that God was protecting and providing and doing and orchestrating in his goodwill and good time. Chapter 24, David spares the life of Saul. Now, when Saul returned from pursuing the Philistines, it was reported to him, saying, "Behold, David is in the wilderness of En-gedi." And Saul took 3,000 chosen men. That's a lot of men, right? 3,000 dudes chosen from all of Israel, and went to search for David and his men in front of the rocks of the mountain goats. That's an interesting name, but apparently that's a place where there's mountain goats. I will say this, David has 600 guys, and Saul has 3,000. If math serves me, that's 5 times the amount. Like, Saul apparently really wants to overpower or fears. I don't know exactly, but Saul is trying to have the upper hand. 3,000 is a lot of men for one guy in his small army. But here we go. Oh, yes, verse 3. And he came to the sheepfolds on the way, and there was a cave. So apparently this is a cave where shepherds would bring in their sheep to get them out of the elements, the rain and stuff like that. So it's a pretty big cave. We'll see here in a moment that 600 men and David are hiding within this cave. So it's a big cave, apparently. That or they're just sardined in there, which I don't think is the case. And Saul, here we go. And so, the Bible just tells it how it is. It's like, anyway, Saul went in to relieve himself. He had to go to the bathroom. He's like, hey, there's a cave. I need to go do my business. So Saul goes in and does his business. In the same cave, it says, now David and his men were sitting in the inner recesses of the cave. So David is in this cave, and Saul comes in to relieve himself. Then David's men said to him, behold, this is the day of which the Lord said to you, behold, I am about to hand your enemy over to you, and you shall do to him as it seems good to you. Then David got up and cut off the edge of Saul's robe secretly. I was thinking about this. It's like, how does David sneak up and then cut off his robe while, Saul is sitting there like relieving himself? I imagine that Saul probably took his robe off and set it to the side so it wasn't in the way, and then went in further or whatever, and David found his robe, got close enough to still kill him if he wanted to, but not like, it wasn't like he lifted it up and cut it while he was wearing it, I imagine. Saul, regardless, was in a very vulnerable moment. I imagine he also went into the cave alone. If you're going to relieve yourself, Saul's not a woman, sorry. Men don't go to the bathroom with other men, right? That's what ladies do. No offense. I'm just saying. It's weird. But guys were like, leave us alone. Anyway, so Saul's probably in there alone, and his men are probably outside. There probably was a lot of commotion with 3,000 guys outside, so maybe it was loud enough that David could sneak up. But David snuck up and cut off the corner of his robe. This was an insult, too. Like, cutting someone's robe back then was a very big deal, apparently. You are essentially taking part of the king's royal garments and dismembering it or disfiguring it or whatever. And so very offensive. Verse 5, though, but it came about afterwards that David's conscience bothered him. So he was bothered by just cutting the king's robe because he had cut off the edge of Saul's robe. So he said to his men, far be it from me, because the Lord, that I would reach or do this thing to my Lord, the Lord's anointed. David is still calling Saul this evil, wicked king that just a little while ago killed 85 innocent priests, like Jewish Israelite priests and their families, innocent. He's still saying, hey, this is the Lord's anointed. This is God anointed this guy. And who am I to reach out with my hand against him, since he is the Lord's anointed? And David rebuked his men with these words and did not allow them to rise up against Saul. Remember, David's men were like, hey, you should go kill Saul. And David's like, all right, I'm going to show. And then David's gets a conscience check and is like, no, this is not my time. This is not this way. This is not how it's going to be done. And so did not allow them to rise up against Saul. And Saul got up and left the cave and went on his way. He was done relieving himself. Verse 8, afterwards, however, David got up and went out. Remember, he's in a cave. There's probably no escape. So this is a very vulnerable moment. This is a bold move. Like, I don't know if I would have done this, but bold move, David. It works. David goes out from the cave and calls after Saul, saying, "My lord the king." And when Saul looked behind him, David bowed with his face to the ground and prostrated himself. He's like, "Hey, I am not here. I'm not a threat right now. I am here humbly talking to you. So please don't attack me. Don't throw spears at me like you are known to do. Hear me out." And David said to Saul, why do you listen to the words of men who say, "Behold, David is seeking to harm you"? He's like, you've been told that I'm here to hurt you. Look, I'm not here to hurt you, and I'll prove it in just a second. "Behold, this day your eyes have seen that the Lord has handed you over to me today in the cave. And someone said to kill you, but I spared you. My men were trying to get me to kill you, but I did not. I spared you. And I said, I will not reach out my hand against my Lord, because he is the Lord's anointed." So my father, look, he's not actually his father. This is just a term of endearment. They call each other father and son just as terms of endearment. "But so my father, look at the edge of your robe in my hand. For the fact that I cut off the edge of your robe, but did not kill you." Like, I had you. Like, I imagine if Saul takes off his robe, he probably doesn't have his weapons on or anything else either, right? He was very vulnerable. He's like, I could have killed you, but I didn't. And here's the proof that I could have. "Know and understand that there is no evil or rebellion in my hands, and I have not sinned against you, though you are lying in wait for my life to take it. May the Lord judge between you and me." He's saying, hey, let God be the judge of who's actually in the wrong. "And may the Lord take vengeance on me, but," like he's saying, if I'm trying to kill you, may the Lord judge me for that. "But my hand shall not be against you." Like, I'm not trying to kill you here. As the proverb of the ancient says, "Out of the wicked comes wickedness, but my hand shall not be against you. After whom has the king of Israel gone out?" David's like, who are you even chasing after? Like, me. Who are you pursuing? I'm a dead dog. I'm a single flea. I am nobody, he's saying. Like, you don't chase after a dead dog. They're dead. And a flea, it's like, they're dead, right? He's saying, I'm a nobody. "May the Lord therefore be judged and decide between you and me, and may he see and plead my case or my cause and save me from your hand." He's saying, hey, you're seeking an innocent, small, insignificant guy known as me, and God will be the judge of this. It says this, verse 16, "When David had finished speaking these words to Saul, Saul said, 'Is this your voice, my son David?' And Saul raised his voice and wept." So Saul has a change of heart here. We'll see that it's temporary, but he has a change of heart and he is broken. Now, I don't know if this is an act and he's like, man, I got caught and you had me, and so I'm just acting this way, or if this is true, like repentance. It doesn't necessarily say. You can choose for yourself what you think. But Saul here raised his voice and he wept, and he said to David, you are more righteous than I, and you have dealt well with me, while I have dealt maliciously with you." He's like, man, I'm a bad dude. Like, you're righteous and way better than I am. I've been a jerk to you, and you've been nothing but good to me. 18, "You have declared today that you have done good to me, and that the Lord handed me over to you, and yet you did not kill me. Though if a man finds his enemy, will he let him go away unharmed?" He's like, man, who lets their enemy go away? Like, what are you doing? You clearly are a better person than I am. Saul's like, if I had this moment, you definitely would be dead, David. Totally. I already tried to throw some spears at you. I just have very bad aim. 19, "May the Lord therefore reward you with good in return for what you have done to me this day. Now behold, I know that you will certainly be king, and that the kingdom of Israel will be established in your hand." Saul here is just saying, he's like, I don't know why, like he's fully admitting, you are the chosen king, like you're the better guy, you are going to be the king, and this act proves it. Again, I don't know if he's just saying this to be like, to try to show vulnerability, or if he truly means this. But it says this in 21, "So now swear to me by the Lord that you will not cut off my descendants after me, and that you will not eliminate my name from my father's house." David does this. We talked about this last week with Mephibosheth, which is Jonathan's son. Everyone else dies in battle. David doesn't kill him. And it says that David swore an oath to Saul. This is David's enemy, and he's still like, yeah, I'll do that. Like, David is just proving that he's a good guy here. Then Saul went home to his home, and David and his men went up to the stronghold. So it does not say that they lived happily ever after, not even close. Both men went their separate ways. David heard the words of Saul and even swore an oath not to eliminate his household. However, he had many spears hurled at him and just knew going back with Saul was not a good move. He's like, I hear you, and I'm going to forgive you, but I'm still going to put up some healthy boundaries. I'm still not going to trust you until I'm going to let time prove whether or not you can be trusted. He's like, I went back one time before and you threw another spear at me. Like, I learned my lesson. And then you tried to kill me and you're still trying to kill me. Like, how do I know this time that it's legit? And I think just in practice, understanding that and remembering we need to forgive. The Bible tells us, commands us to forgive, and we absolutely should forgive, but that does not mean that we just let people take advantage of us and all that stuff. There are ways to put up healthy boundaries, and we absolutely should do that. David here is showing that. He's like, I forgive you, thank you, I'm still going to go my own way and take some time. Anyway, chapter 25. Oh, we're doing great on time. Then Samuel died. Woo! That just hits you right in the face. Samuel, the guy that the book is named after, Samuel obviously didn't write 1st and 2nd Samuel because he dies. Unless he prophesied the whole thing, which he didn't. But yeah, so we don't know actually who wrote Samuel. We think that he wrote part of it potentially. But Samuel dies. And all Israel assembled and mourned for him, and they buried him in his house in Ramah. And David went out and went down to the wilderness of Paran. So David moves potentially, he was just exposed his whereabouts to Saul, but also with Samuel out of the way, Saul was fearful of Samuel. With Samuel now out of the way, David's like, man, Saul's going to even more be after me. I will say this too, we don't know exactly how much time passes between all these chapters and events. We do know that David was on the run for about 10 to 13 years throughout this whole time. So this makes it seem like it's just this summer affair. Like when you read it and it's like, oh, one summer, it's like David ran from Saul. It's like, no, 10 years of this man's life at least was spent running from this mad king. And in that time, Samuel died. I will say that this is a very noteworthy moment in Israel's history. Samuel was the last of the judges, and so that era is now officially over, and the era of the kings is now officially in full swing. There was overlap where we had a judge and a king. Now the last judge is dead, and the Israelites only have kings thus forward, or going forward. They still have prophets that show up, but they are not judges. If you want to learn more about judges, read the book of Judges. And look up some videos. Bible Gateway has some, or not Bible Gateway, Bible Project. The Bible Project has some great videos that will explain those things. Yes. Now, Nabal and Abigail, verse 2. Now there was a man in Maon, Maon is how you say that, I think. But there was a man in Maon whose business was in Carmel. This is not Mount Carmel. This is just a town called Carmel. Not to be confused. And the man was very rich. Yes, indeed. Let's prove how rich he was. He had 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats. That's a lot of livestock. And it came about while he was shearing his sheep in Carmel. Now, the man's name was Nabal. We'll see in verse 25 that Nabal means worthless, foolish man. I don't know if he was actually named, like if his parents, he popped out and they're like, hey, let's name him Fool. Or if it just was one of those words that over time became that, it took on the new meaning because you're acting like a Nabal right now. It's like you're acting like a fool. And so I don't know if his name changed, but his wife kind of lays into him in verse 25. We'll talk about it. His wife's name was Abigail, and the woman was intelligent and beautiful in appearance. Was her name Monica or Abigail? Ooh, brownie points. Brownie points. Yes. Anyway, I think they mean the same thing. Anyway, intelligent and beautiful in appearance, and the man was harsh and evil in his dealings, and he was a Calebite. So a Calebite, it's imagined or thought that he is a descendant of Caleb, one of the 12 spies that went into the promised land. Joshua and Caleb were two of the spies that said, hey, we can do it. The other 10 were like, no, we can't go in. And so it seems as though he is a descendant of this good guy, but we see how he turns into, his descendants turn very foolish. Now, verse 4, that David heard in the wilderness that Nabal was shearing the sheep. So David and his men come and find Nabal's men shearing the sheep. So David sent 10 young men, and David said to the young men, go up to Carmel and visit Nabal and greet him in my name. Say, hey, you know that David guy that killed the giant? Yeah, everyone knows him. We're coming in the name of David. This is what you shall say. Have a long life, peace to you, and peace to your house, and peace to all that you have. Now then, I have heard that you have shearers. Now your shepherds have been with us. We have not harmed them, nor has anyone or anything of theirs gone missing all the days they were in Carmel. Ask your young men, and they will tell you. Therefore, let my young men find favor in your eyes, for we have come on a festive day. Please give whatever you find at hand to your servants and to your son David. Essentially, he's saying, hey, your shearers were out in the wilderness, and we came upon them. We didn't pillage them like the Philistines would have. Instead, in fact, we protected them. We didn't take anything from them. And so we did, like, we scratched your back. Can you scratch our back now? We did you a favor. Can you do us a favor? It's a festive day. We're hungry. Will you spare some food? He doesn't say, like, give me this, this, and this. He's just like, spare whatever you can. So, verse 9, when David's young men came, they spoke to Nabal in accordance with all the words in David's name, and they waited. But Nabal answered David's servants and said, he's living up to his name right now, who is David? I don't know this giant slayer. I've never heard the songs that everyone's singing about David slaying his thousands or 10,000s and Saul is thousands. What song? Who's David? And who is the son of Jesse? There are many servants today who are each breaking away from his master. He's saying, hey, it's time. People are leaving. It's busy time. I ain't got time for this David guy. I don't care who he is. Verse 11, shall then I take my bread and my water and my meat that I have slaughtered and my shearers and give it to men whose origin I don't know. He's taking on the personification of those seagulls from Finding Nemo. Mine, 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 right? This is my bread. This is my water. This is my meat. These are my shearers. This is my stuff. He sounds like a little 3-year-old. He's a foolish guy, right? He's like, this is mine. I'm not going to share it with some random guy that I don't know. I don't care if you killed a giant. No. So yeah, he's basically said, I'm not sharing my stuff. So David's young men, verse 12, made their way back and returned. And they came and informed him in accordance with all these words. And then David said to his men, each of you strap on his sword. He's like, all right, this means war. So each man strapped on his sword, and David also strapped on his sword. About 400 men went up behind David, while 200 stayed behind with the baggage. So this same David that risked the safety of his men in chapter 23 to save some farmers from the Philistines and then spares the life of a king that is trying to kill him, that same David now got mad at this rich, foolish guy because he wouldn't share some food with him and is now going to kill him and all of his men. What? Like, I don't know if David was just hangry or something here, but this just doesn't line up. David's life is like a roller coaster where he makes some great decisions and does some great things, and he makes some very foolish things. I like that, though, that the Bible doesn't hold back and is like, yeah, David was about to go kill an innocent man and his whole entire village, basically, because he wouldn't share some food. Not a good look, David. So I will say, maybe David should have consulted with the Lord about going and confronting Nabal, and consulted with the Lord instead of acting on emotion and impulse. This was an impulsive, I'm mad. He said, no, I'm going to go show this guy. He should have consulted like he did in chapter 23, and his men might have been like, no, David. But God answered him that time. I'm sure God would have answered him this time too. Anyway, Now, one of the young men told Abigail, the young men, this is verse 14, the young men here is Nabal's young men, not David's young men. Both of them have young men talking to each other, so it can get confusing. But this is Nabal's young men returning from David and giving a report. And they told Abigail, Nabal's wife, saying, "Behold, David sent messengers from the wilderness to greet our master Nabal. And he spoke to them in anger." Nabal replied in anger and was not kind. "Yet the men were very good. David's men were very good to us, and we were not harmed, nor did anything go missing as long as we went with them and while we were in the fields. And they were a wall to us, both by day or by night and by day. All the time we were with them, tending the sheep. Now then, be aware and consider what you should do, because David is not happy. Harm is plotted against our master and against all his household, and he is such a worthless man that no one can speak to him." Essentially, again, worthless man, Nabal, fool. Essentially, his own men are like, "Hey, that guy is a doofus. That's why I came to you, because you're smart and intelligent and beautiful. Not this foolish man." Why? How Nabal and Abigail ended up together, I don't know. I try not to be a Nabal to my Abigail. Anyway, Abigail intercedes. Then Abigail hurried and took 200 loaves of bread, 2 jugs of wine, 5 sheep already paired, and 5 measures of roasted grain, and 100 cakes of raisins, and 200 cakes of figs, and a partridge and a pear tree, and she loaded them up on a donkey. Just kidding. But she took a lot of stuff. The partridge is coming in the next chapter. Stay tuned. But she took a bunch of stuff. She's like, "Hey, let's load up a bunch of stuff because we got a hangry guy coming to pillage and kill and destroy. Let's meet him with a peace offering." And then she said to her young men, "Go ahead of me. Behold, I am coming after you." But she did not tell her husband Nabal. Good move, because Nabal would have been like, "No, don't do that. I already said no." So she's like, "I'm just going to do this because I don't want everyone to die. Sorry, Nabal." Going behind his back. I think it's okay in this time. Verse 20, "And it happened as she was riding on her donkey and coming down by the hidden part of the mountain, that behold, David and his men were coming down toward her. So she met them. Now David had said, it is certain," David said this to his men, "it is certain for nothing that I have guarded, it is certainly for nothing that I have guarded everything that this man has in the wilderness, so that nothing has gone missing of all that belongs to him. For he has returned me evil for good." This is an important verse. Verse 20, "May God do so to the enemies of David, and more so, if by morning I shall leave alive as much as one male of anyone who belongs to him." Essentially, he's saying, God will curse me if I don't go, this is not a good thing. This is not saying God will, but he's like, I should be cursed if I don't go and kill all of these this guy's men. David is, again, not acting properly. He is acting on impulse and emotion, not seeking counsel from God. And he's essentially making this very foolish vow. We'll see how that turns out here in a moment. Verse 23. Then Abigail saw David. When Abigail saw David, she hurried and dismounted from her donkey and fell on her face in front of David and bowed herself to the ground. Again, prostrate and just saying, "Hey, I am your servant. I am not a threat. I'm here." And this is interesting. Verse 24, "She fell at his feet and said, 'On me alone, my Lord, be the blame.'" She didn't do anything wrong, but she's taking the blame, and the blame of her husband, essentially. "And please let your slave," this rich woman is referring to herself as a slave to this guy who's about to come. This is just her showing very sincere and respect and reverence and hey, and being humble. "Hey, I am your slave, speaking to you now. And listen to the words of your slave." 25, "Please do not let my Lord pay attention to this worthless man." So now she is calling her husband a worthless man. This worthless man, Nabal, "for as he is named." Essentially, so again, I don't know if his name means worthless man at this time. It seems like it might, but I don't know. "For as he is named, so he is." He is a worthless man. Nabal is his name, and stupidity is with him. His name fits him. But your slave did not see the young men of my Lord who you sent. She's like, if I was there, I would have said yes and talked to my husband, but I didn't see it, and he said no, he's dumb. Let's make a deal. 26. Now then, my Lord, as the Lord, there's a lot of lords here, capital L and lowercase l. Try to pay attention. If you're reading along, it's easy to see which Lord they're talking about. If you're listening, it's like Lord, 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 Lord. But anyway, now then, my Lord, as the Lord lives, and as your soul lives, since the Lord has restrained you from shedding blood and from avenging yourself by your own hand, now then, may your enemies and those who seek evil against my Lord be like Nabal. And now let this gift which your servant has brought to my Lord be given to the young men who accompany my Lord. Please forgive. She's asking for forgiveness here. Forgive the offense of your slave. She did nothing wrong, but she's saying, hey, I'll take the blame. Forgive me. For the Lord will certainly make for my Lord an enduring house, because my Lord is fighting the battles of the Lord, and evil will not be found in you all your days. Essentially, she's saying, hey, I've heard about you, and you are doing the right thing. You're a good guy. And she's about to say, you're a good guy. Don't do this bad thing. Check it out. 29. Should anyone rise up to pursue you and seek your life, then the day of my Lord shall be bound in the bundle of the living with the Lord your God. But the lives of your enemies he will sling out. I think she uses a pun here. I don't know, but he will sling out as from the hollow of a sling. Verse 30. And when the Lord does for my Lord, in accordance with all the good that he has spoken concerning you, and appoints you as ruler over Israel, this will not become an obstacle to you or a troubled heart to my Lord, both by having shed blood without cause and by my Lord's having avenged himself. When the Lord deals well with my Lord, then remember your slave. Essentially, this is a confusing way to speak, but it works. Essentially, she's saying, hey, you're a good guy, and you're about to do a very foolish thing. And this foolish thing is not going to be a good start. You're about to be king, and this is going to be a very bad start to you being a king. Do you want to be known as that new king that just went and killed some guy because you were hangry? Not a good look. And she's also saying, hey, this is probably going to trouble your heart. You're going to look back and be like, oh, I messed up. That was bad. Like, don't do this for your own sake and for the sake of others. This is a bad move. Then David said to Abigail, verse 23, blessed be the Lord, God of Israel, who sent you this day to meet me, and blessed be your discernment. He's saying her name means joy of the Father or something like that. But he's saying you are very intelligent and beautiful, and your discernment, good on you. And blessed be you, who have kept me this day from bloodshed and from avenging myself from my own hand. 34. Nevertheless, as the Lord God of Israel lives, who has restrained me from harming you. He's saying, I'm not going to harm you. You've convinced me. You are wise. Thank you. If you had not come quickly to meet me, here's the vow, there certainly would not have been left to Nabal until morning light as much as one male. So David accepted from her hand what she had brought him, and said to her, get up, go to your house in peace. See, I have listened to you and granted your request. So this is a great turnaround. So David makes a very poor choice and is about to make a very dumb move, but is prevented by this wise and discerning woman. He makes a foolish vow, but then cancels it because he realizes it's foolish. This is a great thing to note. If you go in and you're doing something foolish and you realize it's foolish, stop. Like, even if you've given your word, it's okay. Go back on your word instead of committing this foolish thing. It reminds me of Judges 11 with Jephthah, right? This guy makes a very stupid vow that he will sacrifice the first thing that comes out of his house. And if the Lord gives him victory, he didn't need to do this, but he did it. And the first thing that came out is his daughter. Now, I personally believe that he actually sacrificed his daughter and killed his daughter because of his pride and his stupidity. Instead of being like, that was a dumb vow. I don't know why I did that. I'm just not going to do it. I think Jephthah had some stuff to prove and didn't want that to be like on his reputation. He wanted to be a man of his word. So he ends up sacrificing his own daughter. Dumb. David here makes a vow and he's like, no, that's dumb. I'm not going to do that. Thank you for your wise counsel. Again, if someone comes to you with wise counsel and says you're acting foolishly, take it. Go back on your word if it means doing the right thing. Verse 36. Then Abigail, this is an interesting turn of events. Then Abigail came to Nabal. I am not doing well on time. I thought I was. Goodness gracious, these chapters are longer than I thought. Then Abigail came to Nabal, and behold, he was having a feast in his house, like the feast of a king, and Nabal's heart was cheerful within him, for he was very drunk, so she did not tell him anything until the morning light. So the next day, she's going to tell him the news. But in the morning, when the wine had gone out of Nabal, his wife told him these things, and his heart died within him, so that he became like stone. Apparently, he had a heart attack or a stroke or something, and he was debilitated for about 10 days, because about 10 days later, the Lord struck Nabal and he died. So Nabal heard this, he's like, what? And then 10 days later, he dies. So David, being the wise man that he is, not really wise, but sees an opportunity. When David heard that Nabal was dead, he said, blessed be the Lord, who has pleaded the cause of the shame inflicted on me by the hand of Nabal, and he had kept back his servant from evil. Essentially, he's saying, hey, I didn't have to kill this guy. God did. And this is kind of foreshadowing Saul and David, how David could kill Saul, but he hasn't, and God is going to end up taking Saul out, just like God takes Nabal out. The Lord also returned the evil doing of Nabal on his own head. David sent a proposal to Abigail to make her as his wife. He's like, hey, I see an opportunity. You're single? Hey, let's get married. Cool, David. When the servants of David came to Abigail at Carmel, they spoke to her, saying, David has sent us to you to take him as his wife. Let's read that again. David has sent us to you to take you to him as his wife. And she got up and bowed with her face to the ground and said, behold, your slave is a servant to wash the feet of my Lord's servant. Then Abigail got up quickly and rode on a donkey, and with her 5 female attendants who accompanied her, and she followed the messengers of David and became David's wife. That's an interesting wedding, but that's how they got married. But verse 43, it says this, David had also taken Ahinoam, this other girl, of Jezreel, and they both became his wife. A lot of commentators say that he actually married this girl first and then Abigail second. But please note, this is David's 3rd wife. He's got 3 wives at the time. This is not okay. Nowhere in the Bible does it say to do this. But I will say this, verse 44, but Saul had given his daughter Michal, who was David's wife, to Palti, the son of Laish, who was from Galim. So essentially 10 years of, this is going on for a while. She's single. Saul's like, hey, whatever, I'm going to give you away. She ends up coming back, I think, in 2 Samuel at some point, maybe chapter 3, and they are reunited. But yeah, David has 2, maybe 3 wives at this point. This is not okay. The Bible nowhere endorses polygamy or allows this or condones it. This is not a good look for David. He is acting as a king. Even though he's not king, he's acting as like a non-Israelite king who's just taking as many wives as he wants. We also know, spoiler alert, Bathsheba, who you guys maybe know the story, but he ends up taking her as his wife too. So 4 wives at least. This is not good. And I will say this too. Saul, even though he's a bad dude, the Bible only records him as having 1 wife. So good on him. I will say he does have a concubine and has 2 children, at least with that concubine, but he only has 1 wife. So even Saul, this evil, wicked king, didn't act as David did. Come on, David. But for the sake of time, I'm actually not going to go through chapter 26. We will just pick up next week. But I will recap by saying this. The takeaways. 1, we need to be seeking the Lord for guidance and not acting on impulse, right? David did well when he sought the Lord's guidance. He almost made a huge mistake when he acted solely on emotions. So take note of that. Two, we need to trust God and his timing, right? We often want to take matters into our own hands and figure things out on our own, but David sets a good example for us by not killing Saul and taking the easy way out. He had the opportunity. God was testing him, and and David says, no, I'm going to trust God, trust his timing. This is not the right way. And he allowed God to work things out in his time. We need to do the same. Allow God to work things out. And then three, this is in the next chapter, spoiler alert, David spares Saul's life once again. It's very similar to chapter 24, I think is what it was. But there can be forgiveness and still have healthy separation. We see that Saul repented and admitted his sin against David. David didn't call him a liar, didn't call him out. He simply listened, but kept healthy distance to let time tell if there was true repentance in Saul's heart, and to see if he was just saying that because he was caught or if he truly repented. We need to know when to set up healthy boundaries and know that we must forgive, but that does not mean we just forgive and then let them come in and harm us again. We need to forgive, absolutely, but sometimes set up healthy boundaries and use discernment, use wisdom, pray, seek God. Go back to number one of seeking the counsel of God, seeking God for guidance, and he will lead you and guide you in that. And so that is where we will stop for this evening.